All right, all right, all right. All right, welcome back to another video, everybody. You know, it's your boy Relly. We about to go ahead and hop on this blockchain odyssey. You know, I got to keep saying that just because. All right, everybody, it's your boy Relly. We're going to hop back on this again with another video, just showing you guys how to use the indicators and the drawings in your toolbar in Synergy. That way, you can look at the data that's getting presented to you and predict what's going to happen later on in the future. Also, we can look back at past examples of things happening during certain situations. They kind of give you a um, little bit of comfort in knowing if whether or not your prediction has a possibility of even coming true. Because it happened in the past, it could happen again. History don't repeat, but it does rhyme. Might not happen the exact same way, but you'll see what I'm talking about. So first and foremost, my favorite indicators to use, like my go-to would be the RSI. It's the most basic indicator you can use, to be honest with you. Just showing you the strength that's being implemented within the graphs itself. As you can see, like we're up here above 70 over overbought territory. We're just soaring during that time period. This is when you see these big massive moves up. It's when we're just staying above 70 for a long period of time. You have a nice little period where we're below 30 for a nice little period of time. Like right here, we're just coasting down here at the bottom. Like for a while, we were just at the bottom range, just going sideways. Sometimes it can be a continuously drop to the bottom. It all depends on the scenario and situation that you're in. But we're going to look at this little area right here because we're about to talk about how it is that you can be finding the bottom in any chart just about by using the RSI along with using your drawing tools to understand exactly what it is the RSI is actually showing and telling you. So let's go ahead and break it down. So like I said, we're gonna be looking at this whole little bottom part right here from March all the way up to November of 2024. This was a rough period, believe me, because it was just sideways, like downwards motion the entire time. It was hard being in the market, but you know, pressure made diamonds. So what we gonna do right here, we're gonna use our trend line. I like to use the trend line a lot because it just shows me the trend on how everything is flowing within the market. And so at this point, we're only looking towards the bottom and we're trying to find where the bottom is so we can see this little curl up moment right here. And we're going to see exactly how it is that we're going to be tagging this thing, right? So this is like the low part of the first beginning, like the lowest part in the beginning part of the this range, right? Bring a trend line over, you can see we had a contact here, boom, contact here. We did have one nice little sweep go below it, then it instantly got brought right back up. So it's just a wick, and then it's not a full body close down here, but still nonetheless, price did fall below it as like a little deviation, pretty much coming back to retest this whole order block of demand right here, right? So all this price action that we had within this area, as you can see, I'm using my rectangle here to show this for you. All this price action we had within this area is what caused this massive leap up, right? Now, this massive leap up, all this price that was holding, that was being generated. Let me get rid of this real quick. We're gonna get back to it. We're gonna get back to it. All of this price was being held up by a toothpick. Literally. This right here is what was holding up price. A toothpick. We're gonna change the color so you can see it a little more. We're gonna change that to, I'm gonna change it to like a darker orange or something. No, that shows nothing because it is a little faded. There you go. So it was just nothing, honestly, up until we came back and refilled it. This is called like a fair value gap, to where it's pretty much free game down here. And no, most of the time we come back and refill these because we need something as support. Like this is no support all the way back here in the beginning stages. As soon as we mark up and we just leave this area like that, it's always a possibility of coming back down to retest this spring of demand to make sure that it's demand. So It's always having that in mind and knowing that that's always a possibility can also help you with predicting where it is the graph's going to be going, right? So knowing that ahead of time, I kind of figured that we was going to sweep back into this range right here, right above the area of demand. And we even swept all the way down to sweep the area of demand. It's because market makers like to shake people out the market, but then it instantly got brought all the way back up. So let's go ahead and get rid of this right here so you understand that much already. We're going to keep this right here just because that's where most of the demand is. In fact, we're going to transfer this over and we're going to use this template. We're going to put it at the demand zone. That is our demand zone. This is why having the drawings up here are very, very helpful. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add back on our trend line for us to go back into this demand zone. This was the trend that we was on going back into this area. Right now, let's see what was going on the RSI. So the RSI was actually on the downtrend as well, the same way the chart was, because we was losing strength. So the chart is going to be losing strength and it's going to be falling back down to the downside until we hit bear levels. Now, once the RSI, I'll move this over a little bit. Once the RSI got right here below 30, which the first point where it was below 30 was right here, right? Boom, right there. Not necessarily the bottom of the market or anything. Next point was like right here, which was the actual bottom. And yeah, okay. So this is the interesting thing right here, which is a great way of signaling what's about to happen in the future. So we've seen that we had a trend going into this demand zone. You see the RSIs also had a trend going on to where we was losing strength and we was falling down, like falling downwards, pretty much. This was the trend that you was on. It was falling downwards. The thing about it is at the bottom, I hate this thing right here. It's always in the way. You can see that the RSI, we had a low right here, but then we had a higher low over here on this side, right? So this one came all the way down to 25 on the RSI, and then this one right here stopped at roughly 27, 26, 27. So this moment was lower. This moment was higher. But if you look at it on the price chart, it's showing you that this moment was higher and this moment was lower. That's what you call a divergence. So you'll see price continue to go down, but at the same time you'll see RSI start to have somewhat of an uptrend, right? As you can see that we started to have an uptrend while price was still going down. Even though the US valuation of Bitcoin was still going down, we were gaining strength because more and more buyers was getting it was just getting happier at lower prices. You know, you buy something at a low price, you buy something at $1 and you wait for it to go up to $5, you just 5 extra money. So the lower and lower that Bitcoin got, the more and more strength people's coming in, buying more, buying more, buying more. Because you're just getting a premium discount on the asset. I'm gonna keep these up here actually. And it wasn't until we had another, man, this thing is annoying. Let me move it up right here. It wasn't until we had another high low point. This is a higher low on the RSI. And we had a higher low on the price chart at the same time. But it was kind of after the fact. We was already in an uptrend. RSI was already gaining strength and it took price to kind of, you know, a little time to keep up with it, to catch up with it, I mean. So you end up seeing this nice reversion. And then, you know, then Bitcoin started to trade upwards the same way that the RSI did. But that's a good way to figure out whether or not you're in the bottom or not, right? You'll look for these hitting tactics within the RSI for this particular indicator. Now, it don't always have to be just the RSI. For example, you could use the MACD and you can pretty much find the exact same type of confluence within the charts itself, but from a different viewpoint. So we're gonna erase these real quick. Let me get rid of Okay, so still looking at the bottom and how it is that we're gonna start flipping over here, right? Now, I talked about this in the indicator video about the MACD, but we're gonna go a little bit more in depth into it. So right here on the MACD, this blue line right here, once it crossed below the orange line, is pretty much signaling that we're about to be going into a bear period where everything switches to red, meaning that we're going to be in a major sell-off period. And if you want to put a vertical line as of when that actually happened, you can see that it was right here, right before we had these massive multiple day sell-offs down past our demand zone before we got bought back up. And it wasn't until this moment here where we kind of crossed over, right? Once we crossed over, we had a nice little rally, but then we also had another little fall off period where then we end up crossing again. So it's like the MACD will tell you on a shorter time span exactly what's going to be going on. And it's not exact. As you can see, like it would have been best to get the reading that we're about to go into a little bear period, have the bear period marked right here, boom, watch the price fall. Once you see price fall into a nice demand zone or a region of price to where you're actually eyeing to get a nice little buy in there, this would have been a nice period using the MACD and also using the drawings for my technical analysis to kind of have everything pointing in the same direction. Okay, MACD told me we was gonna fall. We fell all the way down to my demand zone. I could have easily bought Bitcoin or any other coin down here within this area, because if once Bitcoin start to turn around and start going back up to the upside, everything follows Bitcoin. So I could have been looking at Bitcoin, which I was. You'd be looking at Bitcoin, measuring out what Bitcoin is going to do, and then predicting what everything else is going to do following Bitcoin afterwards. So if Bitcoin is starting to look like it's about to be reversing to the upside, and then boom, everything else will at the same time. Now, another thing along with the MACD is you also can see these, golly, that's so annoying. You also can see these divergence along with the MACD line itself. As you can see, we was gaining strength to go back towards more of a bullish sentiment with the MACD. So we was already in the uptrend on the moving average lines of the MACD, while Bitcoin at these moments was still in the downtrend, the same way it was with the RSI. So it's the same thing. As you see a hidden divergence within the RSI, you can see it within other indicators if you know how to find and look for them. I'm gonna say, what did I just do? So if you know how to find and look for them, you can pretty much pinpoint these areas. And I did have this demand zone already marked out. I already knew that it was going to refill this fair value gap right here, and we filled it up. Technical analysis, using just looking at the charts and using my drawing tools to kind of help me measure where everything is going, looking at the trends and how everything is flowing, you can pinpoint these things. Now the best thing about it is that you really want to look for are market structure changes, right? So what a market structure change would be, let me go back out a little bit so you can see a little better. I'm gonna use the Pathfinder. So you got your high right here, and you come down, you make a high time frame low. You come up here, you make another high time frame high, but it's a lower high. So since it's a lower high and it starts to roll over, the only other thing that you can expect it to really do is to make a lower low, right? And that's exactly what we did. We went low because it's a downtrend, and then we made a lower high. Still, that means since we made a lower high and we didn't flip this one, it was just signaling to you that we're going to go below this low right here, which we did, right? And then we came up and made another lower high. The only thing about it is that the MACD was actually showing you that we're gaining strength. The RSI was showing you that we're gaining strength. Even though we're in this downtrend, you're starting to gain strength now that you done got back to this demand zone. And what happened? We come back to retest this demand zone after we kind of went below it a little bit. We went below it a little bit and kind of got brought back up into it. And then we rolled up, made a lower high, came down and made a higher low. Now trend is starting to change. Now that we made a higher low, the confirmation is once you come up and you break this high right here. Once you come back above this high, you're pretty much breaking trend. You're breaking structure. It's no more higher high. It's no more lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and it's off to the races at that point because trend breaks. Pretty much what you're looking for is for this high to be swept. Once they sweep this high and you get that confirmation above it, it will come back down. Let me get this out the way real quick. It'll come back down. Of course, it'll just sweep it. Sometimes it can just, break past and like go crazy. But if it starts to roll back over, the next thing that you'll want to see that it creates another higher low. That way it can for sure follow a different trend, right? Now everything is going towards the upside on everything until the graph just goes straight to the upside. So that's pretty much the break of market structure that you'd be looking for. So once you did hit that demand zone, it would have been a risk, but at the same time, you're getting the information from the MACD to go ahead and buy it, right? But if you want to be extra safe, you can wait for the break of market structure first and then bid here on Bitcoin itself, because in reality it's not that big of a percentage gain difference. From you would have missed 15% to 20% within this little gains. It's not that big of a deal, especially when the next percentage gains are taking you all the way up here because you don't flipped into an entirely different trend. So again, using these drawing tools and indicators at the same time, signaling to yourself that we're about to start flipping and going into a bullish environment and getting out of a bearish environment. You could have used the RSI or the MACD to show you that, and other indicators as well. For example, as a matter of fact, let me put this stuff back up here real quick, because we can look at the inflow of volume to this asset at the same time. And let me keep the MACD up. So like once we had this major breakdown on Bitcoin and we got into this demand zone, you can see that the sale volume skyrocketed through the roof right here, right? Bam. There's a big old red candle skyrocketed, and volume kind of slowed down. Volume didn't start to pick back up until after we broke structure. So once you was getting those signals that structure is breaking, the MACD is also signaling that we're about to go into a big bull market. Once the volume candles really start to pick up, you see, like they really started to get larger and larger. That means more money was flowing into the market. And that could have been a good signal for you to just get in around these areas right here, specifically going into the election, because that was really the start of the big takeoff for crypto specifically. For Bitcoin, we're still within this massive range, and it was pretty much us getting a breakout from this range, if you want to look at it like this. So Bitcoin was pretty much trading within this massive sideways range, right? I gotta do it from the other side. Do it from the bottom side. That way you can see the trying to get it on the money. Yeah, so we was pretty much trading sideways in this massive range right here, and that's pretty much where we came and we broke free of it, was going right after the elections. And you can see these large green volume candles coming in to pretty much push us out of this range. We stayed above it just for a little while, but I was just giving you that confirmation that, yeah, we're holding above it for a little bit, and you can still see more volume inflow coming into it, especially after having this massive trend reversal of the market structure, the MACD telling you the same thing, and you seeing buy pressure coming in all at the same time. You would know that, yeah, everything that I've been seeing and everything I've been calculating is true. Like you have confirmation on top of confirmation on top of confirmations. That way you can make the best buying opportunities for yourself. So how to spot a bottom within a chart? Boom, there you go. If you want to look at another example, you can bring it all the way back over here to the actual bear market of Bitcoin at the time. You can do the exact same thing that we just did, of course, in a smaller, different format, different time period, so everything is a little bit different. But nonetheless, if you can even see this right here, the MACD started to go into an uptrend as far as from this low where the MACD, the moving averages on the MACD was all the way down here on this low, and then the MACD actually started to coil up and get a little more support before it started flipping. Bitcoin price was still going down, even though the MACD was coming up. And then you can just look at the volumes around this time point at the exact same time. Let me just put the drawings up here so y'all can see it, see exactly what I'm talking about. So like the MACD was pretty much, it's kind of weird. So the MACD was making an uptrend. Like it didn't make a lower low than this because the selling pressure was pretty much over with. But people were still selling, so price was still dropping. It wasn't until this area right here where you see these massive green candles, not even massive, but it was big enough to get a reaction. Let's zoom in just a little bit. But these green candles right here was putting us within this range to where it was showing you like, yeah, we're about to start taking off. We came back down and retest this little area, and then we actually did to start to staircase step our way on up out of this range. So it was still showing you the exact same thing, a divergence within the MACD. Particularly, it'll be the exact same thing, and probably better to look at it at the RSI from this standpoint. And I'm correct. Let me move this a little bit so I can use my drawing tools. So from this low, you can see that we was all the way down here for like under the 30 line for a nice little time. You see we was kind of shading in red a little bit, and it was kind of in an uptrend a little bit, but mainly kind of moving sideways. But still, you can see that this was still lower than this moment right here, which was at 24. This right here was down here at 20. So yeah, we was in somewhat of an uptrend. If you really want to bring it up here a little bit and to say we kind of deviated out of the uptrend a little bit, and then we caught back up to it and used it as support once again before taking off, same thing. So trend was going up while price was going down. Divergence, you see volumes, excuse me, you see volume start to come into it and everything, into the charts, and it's showing you the exact same thing that I had just showed you earlier. All right, so now that we don't went over like finding the bottom of the markets or even bottom of just ranges of the market, as we did like right here, and how the market structure shifts and how it is you can use these indicators and drawings at the same time and synergy to pretty much paint a picture out for you. Let's look at the tops and see how it is that we can find distribution and see how it is that we will sell off instead. So it's the exact opposite, but at the same time, it's the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and remove all of this, right? We done with all that. We can remove all that. Just remove the indicators, and we're going to start from scratch. And matter of fact, this is use the exact same range right here. Let's use the exact same range, and we're going to bring the RSI up for this, right? And this is something that is needed to be looked at. So the thing about the RSI, how do you know when it's almost about time for you to sell? Well, typically you'll want to wait until you get above the 70 line on the RSI, where it's showing you that you're overbought. So let's mark out where these areas are. So we first passed 70 right here, right? We was going into this uptrend. It's when we first passed 70, meaning that we're pretty much about to be getting to that range where it's overbought and we need to start looking for positions to start selling. And we didn't come back down completely out of this range until right here in March. So from February to March, we were just green and we were just chatting our way up. This right here is how it is that you can determine whether or not it's about time for you to start selling. So pretty much what happens is you'll pass the 70 and you'll stay above here for a certain time, and you'll make you a little high. We're going to mark these highs out right here on the chart, and we're going to use these. So be your first high here on the RSI. Bam. Where's that at on the price chart? Right here. Bam. Right? Now we're going to go to the second high on the RSI. See where was that at? Right here. Bam. Where's that at on the price chart? Right here. Bam. Okay. Okay. We got a high on the RSI. Then we got a higher high, right? Same thing right here. A high, a higher high. Now let's look at the next one. On the RSI, we actually have a lower high right here, showing that we're starting to lose strength, right? It's the exact same thing as if we was gaining strength from the bottom side. We were starting to lose strength because the RSI was going into a downtrend. So same thing with price all the way up here. We continue to go in an uptrend on price. That is a divergence. They're showing you straight up that sell pressure is actually starting to kick in. So with sell pressure starting to kick in, obviously that means you're going to start to see Bitcoin reverse and do exactly what the RSI is doing. So once we fell below 70, of course we were still pretty high in the price. We fell all the way below 70, right? Let's continue to see what happened with Bitcoin. We made our next low on the RSI right here. Where's the price on Bitcoin? It's not that low. It's right here. Just a little bit lower. Now we're starting to catch up to the RSI. You know what I mean? So it's telling you what's going to happen pretty much in the future for Bitcoin based off the strength of buys and sells within the chart of Bitcoin itself within a certain range. So right here, people was honestly we was retapping the old all-time highs. So once we kind of swept past the old time high, the old all-time high for the previous cycle, people started taking profits. A lot of people who bought up here had to wait until they got back to this point just to get their money back. And they had to just hold throughout this entire process. It took years for them to get their money back. So yeah, they start selling, get a little bit of profit off of them buying from cheaper as well. Who wouldn't? And it's kind of to be expected. That's why you also got to look at things at a higher time frame. So if we was to, let's go ahead and put a horizontal line right here at the tippity top of the market, right? You can see that's exactly where people started to take profits. As soon as we got past this little area right here, that's when the RSI was losing strength. Instantly, we was losing strength as soon as we got past the previous all-time high, and people started to sell. Buying strength started to lose. Get out of here, since we don't really need that per se. But that was already like telling you enough right there alone with the RSI. Now, another thing to look at would be just simple trends within a small area. Now, this entire time, right? Once we got to this stage on the RSI, instead of us continue to pump hard like we was previously, we started to kind of go sideways. And we started to still have this little uptrend because it was still buy orders coming in, but they was just losing strength. Once they lost all ultimate strength, and then you can see like where we lost strength, that was like down here on the RSI, right? And then we made another little bounce up for this complacency to retest this line of support that we had that got turned into resistance. The RSI was all the way down here at 50. So, and actually we was coming up to retest the 50. We already fell below 50, which means we put us in bear territory. We came back up to retest it. Still anywhere within this time frame of us just seeing what's going on, most of the time it's always best to wait for you get that confirmation, like once you break structure and you make new lows, then it's about time for you to start second guessing what's going on within the charts. And what I mean by breaking new lows is, how I was saying how trend is. You got a higher high, you get another high, then you get another higher high. Once you start to get a lower high and you see that trend reversal, it's the exact same thing that what we was talking about on this side. Once you break structure, like once you got that higher high right here in this area, you knew that the next thing you needed to make was a higher low to confirm it. And then once you break past that again, that's just confirmation that structure has changed. It's the exact same thing over here. So we had a high, came down, made a low, had a lower high, made a higher low, kind of made the same type of high, but then ultimately we rolled over and we made lower lows, right? Came up here, made lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and then it kind of flipped. So it's the exact same thing that happened at the bottom, but reverse. It's just but reverse. And we came to retest, came back up to retest it once more, and then we completely rolled over and went into that complete bear market that the RSI was telling us that we're about to be going into because we lost all strength. So that's one area right here. And you also can use, again, liquidity volume to see that once we broke structure and everything, no, actually beforehand, coming all the way up here to where the RSI was starting to lose strength, we was getting massive sell orders coming in, massive sell orders, especially within these ranges where the RSI was losing strength. A lot of sell orders was coming, and that was just letting you know at the same time that we're about to be going on the downtrend. RSI saying you lose strength. You seeing massive sell orders coming in on from the liquidity volume, and the price chart is also showing you a divergence of it having to catch up with the RSI. And if you was to look at the MACD the exact same way that we looked at it for the bottom of the chart, it'll be showing you the exact same thing. So let me get rid of the RSI real quick. We can look at the MACD. Let me move this one up. So you can see right here on the MACD, we actually was super bullish. So we extended way past the medium range down here at 0 on the MACD, and we came all the way up to 5,500 and something, right? Points. But we didn't cross up here on the moving averages until right here at this moment, where you also see major selling power coming in. And it was also, if you looked at it on the RSI, it was also a lower high on the RSI, showing you that we was losing strength. And once these two moving averages cross, the blue line going under the orange line is showing you that we are about to be going into a bear market situation for the most part. Maybe locally, maybe in a high time frame manner. It kind of resolves around the sentiment of the market and where everything is overall. It's a lot more to be looking at it than just the charts and the technical analysis behind them. It's also news like what the Federal Reserve is doing with its with during the FOMC meetings where they changed the interest rate hikes, what it is that Japan did to their bonds and stuff over there in Japan. It's a lot because crypto is a global market, but nonetheless, you can use TA for all the help you need to spot things out like this, regardless of what's going on. So that's one example, right? That's one example of how it is you can spot a top. Let's go back to, because this is just a local top, right? It's not even like the major top of Bitcoin. So we're going to come back over here and we're going to look at the major top of Bitcoin. And I'm going to put the RSI back up here. Move this down a little bit. We can kind of, bam. Then we can zoom in. All right. So it's another situation that we had before. First and foremost, as you can see, we was up in overbought territory up here, right? At this point, we're gonna start right here. Boom, boom. Now let's go to the next high on the RSI. We're right here with it, right? Boom. But look at it on price chart. We're at a higher high. Boom. To the next one. You'll go to the RSI again. We're at a lower high once again. Boom. But go back to the price chart. We're still making higher highs. This is showing you that we're about to have a mean reversion. A mean reversion. Because strength is losing. And it's at the top of the market too. So it's gonna be like a really, really big mean reversion once the bear market actually kicks in from the exact top, because that means everybody's gonna be looking for positions to sell, not just local areas. But nonetheless, it all still plays out. So low time frame, high time frame, you got a downtrend on the RSI right here, and at the same time, you have an uptrend on the price chart, divergence. If you want to move this up here, just to show like the uptrend from the highs specifically, like you're just making uptrend on the price chart, no matter how it is you want to look at it. So Now, also while looking at this, most of the time when I do trend lines, I like to use it as like supports before they flip them as resistance, especially when I'm looking at things out here like on the graph. And so you can look at this little area right here, right? Where you seen the RSI was losing strength, but Bitcoin was still kind of chatting up, make like, keeping market structure looking bullish. And it wasn't until it flipped market structure to where you had your high, you made a low, made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, somewhat of a higher high, like just swept it just a little bit. But then you came down and made a lower low, changing market structure. Then you come up here to retest this trend line that we had, where we were just kind of bouncing off of, making these higher highs and higher lows. We come back to retest it to make sure it's not support no more, and it flips to resistance, and then we continue to make lower lows, make another lower high, lower low, and we made another lower high. Then we made our higher low, higher high, higher low, and then it's when market kind of flipped on us and we started to go back bullish. That's pretty much the flip of structure. It's the exact same thing no matter what, especially with the RSI. It's telling you that you're losing strength. Also, even right here, you're seeing that you're having big red candles come. Like, people took a lot of profit right here. Cool, people were still taking profit during these little markets right here, but it wasn't until we had that confirmation and then that major sell off right here where we had a lot of people taking big sale positions. But of course, if you was smart and you got all the way down here towards the bottom, then the small difference from, let's say if you bought down like right here, instead of you getting out at the very top, if you got down like right here, it's like a 200% difference, but you're still in profit regardless. So it really shouldn't matter that much. You shouldn't be too greedy and just try to nab the top. You want to wait until you get these confirmations where you have that break of trend and this retest right here, which is also important because altcoins lag behind Bitcoin anyways. If you're trading an alpha and not the beta to the alpha, then of course you just wait for this whole breakdown and try to guess it out as best you can using the indicators and your own drawing techniques and putting them all together and making them work in synergy. But it comes with experience. It also comes with finding the right teachers and just watching how they operate as they talk, and they you start to catch on to the lingo and everything of the things they're saying. You start to see what it is they're doing without having to go back and be like, oh, what's this? What does this mean? What is that? What's this drawing? Where'd that go from? Like, once you actually see and know everything, and you can just pay attention and watch and see how it is that people utilize all this stuff, get on YouTube and watch them actually chart stuff out, and you be like, oh, okay, this all makes sense. So we can look at multiple different areas on this. Honestly, you really can. Like, for example, even right here, you got above 70 wheels. We made a high right here, made a lower high on the RSI, but a higher high on Bitcoin. We just swept this little area right here. It wasn't even like it wasn't an extended version, kind of like how this right here was, where it was just like multiple. We just swept it instantly instead. And once he swept, we just kind of fell. It wasn't too much to really think about at that moment. But it's really that simple though. I ain't gonna say it's really that simple because you gotta know what you're doing, but it's really that simple though. But that's it. That's it. That's it. There's a lot more indicators. There's a lot more ways to put all this stuff together. But I just want to show you guys how exactly it is that you can use the two in synergy to kind of pinpoint certain moments in the charts, so where you would know that, like, this is the time for me to be buying. I can give you another example right here, like a real quick one. You see the RSI going in an uptrend right here, while price is still in somewhat of a downtrend. You know what I mean? This is showing you that, like, we're about to gain a lot of strength. Like, strength is building up. People are buying again. While price is still going down, you're just getting cheap prices while all the pressure is still building up. And then once that pressure actually pops, that's when you get those big massive springs to the upside. So it's examples for days, not only in Bitcoin. It's in any chart you want to look at. Like I said, you can do this in stock and equities, anything. All this stuff works regardless of what it is you're looking at. You can look at gold, any type of commodity, doesn't matter. TA works. So no matter what it is you're trying to invest into and trade, you can always learn a little bit from any and everybody. It's always good to have multiple teachers, but you gotta have the right ones. But we're gonna catch back up on the next video, which I haven't decided what we're gonna be doing it on per se just yet, but I'm trying to give y'all all the juice, all the knowledge I got up in my head anyway. So we're gonna have some fun, do some hours on this thing.